Hey guys! In the previous video lesson, we learned how to name ionic compounds when they are univalent and multivalent cations present in them. In this video lesson, we are going to learn how to name ionic compounds when there is a polyatomic ion present. First of all, let's understand what is a polyatomic ion. Let's look at this chart. This chart is a chart of polyatomic ions. We see all of these ions, they all have negative charges except this one, ammonium. These are called polyatomic ions. Why? Because they have more than one element in their ion. Oxidation numbers reflect the charges that they have. So if in case you're not able to read the charges properly, you can just read the oxidation number. We would understand this better once we do an example. So let's take up an example first. Let's say we're required to name Na2CO3. Now this Na is a metal, CO3 is a non-metal. How do we know that? Is when we go back and check the polyatomic ion chart, we see that CO3 has a negative charge. So 2 negative charge. So anything that has a negative charge is a non-metal. Now in order to name this, all we need is just the name of Na, which is sodium, and the name of CO3 is going to be read from here. That is carbonate. So Na2CO3 is sodium carbonate. Let's do another example. We have magnesium and phosphate and we are asked to make a compound and name it as well. What do? Is we check from the periodic table that magnesium is 2 positive. Phosphate we check from this polyatomic ion chart is here, and that is PO4 3 negative. All we have to do is just crisscross these charge values. Positive and negative means that they can attract with each other and form a compound. So we would have magnesium, this 3 comes and become the subscript of magnesium. 2 becomes the subscript of phosphate. So if you want to put 2 as a subscript of entire phosphate, make sure you put phosphate in a bracket, and then here goes 2. Now what is its name? Name is magnesium phosphate. Just for the sake of practice, let's do one more example. If we have something like this, AlNO3 whole thrice, we go back and check from the periodic table what is Al, and we see here Al is a 3 positively charged ion. Because it's 3 positive, so it's a metal. Name is aluminum. So Al is aluminum. Let's find out what is this NO3. And we locate NO3 on this polyatomic ion chart. We see here is NO3 lying. Name is nitrate. Charge is 1 negative. So how do we name this? Aluminum nitrate. So this is so easy. All we have to do is just use our polyatomic ion chart and the periodic table in order to name univalent ionic compounds with polyatomic ions. Now let's understand how to name multivalent ionic compounds with polyatomic ions. As we now know that multivalent is more than one charge. In case you're unsure about multivalent cations, I would recommend you watch my previous video lesson. That is lesson number 1. Let's say if we have to name FeNO3 whole twice, we'll first go back and check the periodic table what does Fe stand for. And we see here that Fe is iron. And iron has 2 charges, 3 positive and 2 positive. So iron has 3 positive and 2 positive charge. And let's see what does NO3 stand for. And we see NO3 is nitrate, charge is 1 negative. So we would be using NO3 1 negative and NO3 1 negative here. When we crisscross this, we would be able to get Fe1 NO3 whole thrice, because this 3 will go around this NO3. If we crisscross this, we would get Fe1 NO3 whole twice. The name that we have to provide for is FeNO3 whole twice, and that comes from here when we use iron 2 positive charge. So the name for this compound is going to be iron. In bracket we would put 2 because this 2 comes from the charge of iron that was used to form this compound, and nitrate. This is how we name a multivalent ion with a polyatomic ionic compound. Let's do another practice problem. If we have Ni2SO4 whole thrice, how do we name it? We'll first go back in the periodic table and check what this Ni stands for. And we see this Ni is nothing but nickel. It has 2 charges, 2 positive and 3 positive. So nickel has a 2 positive charge and nickel has a 3 positive charge. Let's check the polyatomic ion chart and we see SO4 right there is sulfate. Charges 2 negative. So all we're going to do is just put in SO4 2 negative, SO4 2 negative, and we do crisscrossing. If I do crisscrossing of this, 2 down here, 2 down here, I would get Ni2SO4 whole twice. I have to make sure that I write it down in lowest terms, so I would get NiSO4. Please remember that we are not going to bring this down to lowest term because this number that is along with the polyatomic ion is the identity of the polyatomic ion. We cannot get rid of this number. Only the subscripts that have come from the charges are going to get reduced down to lowest numbers. In this case, we would get Ni2SO4 whole thrice. So we are looking to name this, that is this one, which comes from Ni3 positive. So how would we name this is nickel, bracket we would put 3, and this is sulfate.